Games are a waste of time for men with nothing else to do.
True.
Real brains don't do that. On occasion? Sure. As relaxation? Great. But not full-time. Ray Brad.
I don't find, I just want to interject there, I don't find gaming relaxing. Gaming has not been relaxing. I mean, how do you relax playing a competitive video game? We're going to get into that more, but I think that's a quote when people say they game for relaxation. I don't believe them. Gaming was never relaxing for me. At no point was gaming relaxing. Not when I started RuneScape in 2004 and I was farming. Maybe casual gaming, I don't know. I never really been a casual gamer like that. But as far as gaming, real gaming, that shit is not relaxing. It's stressful. It's very stressful.
I recently did a video about
let's check out the video. We're going to talk about gaming.
The opiate for the middle classes.
I've been wanting to talk about gaming
the comments were
for a while on this channel. So exclusively, I might do a few videos on the gaming and why I'm against gaming.
Quite interesting. And a lot of you asked me about other hobbies. Like, wouldn't other hobbies be opiates of the middle class as well, and other forms of entertainment? And I'm going to address one of those forms of entertainment, and that is video games. Because the history of the class associations with video games has evolved over time, and video games are often a reflection of broader socioeconomic trends. Welcome to Analyzing Finance with Nick. In this video, I'm going to be talking about video games and where they fit in the social class hierarchy. And first, as a disclaimer, it seems like I'm becoming a traitor to young men here, bashing all of the pastimes that are common among millennial and Gen Z men, first with sports and now with video games. But I have been a fan of video games in the past, like from about the ages of 7 to 19.
Gamers love to act like because you bash video games, you've never been a gamer. That's not the case.
I was a pretty hardcore gamer.
I bash video games because I've been a hardcore gamer.
Nintendo consoles, but also occasionally some PS2 and PC games as well.
Nintendo wasn't hardcore, bro. Like, I don't know what Nintendo games you played, but that stuff is not hardcore. Even Pokemon is not hardcore, but I mean, it depends, I guess, what you consider hardcore.
Strategy. And
that's hardcore. Those games are hardcore.
I spent probably way too much time gaming in those years of my life. In retrospect,
PC gaming is the most hardcore.
Could have used that outlet for other things, but I did learn some useful things from gaming, such as some strategic thinking, vocabulary.
Let me tell you something. I learned nothing from gaming at all.
Even some history. But the point being is that I eventually, like sports, started to phase out of gaming in my 20s as I found better opportunities of things to do with my time.
Yeah, because you got more money in your bank account. That's why.
I simply got busy with other priorities.
Exactly.
I still occasionally will play games.
I stopped gaming when I started taking business really seriously. I stopped gaming because I said, hang on a second, I want to get rich. I don't want to be playing some fake video game and riding a car in Grand Theft Auto, a supercar in Grand Theft Auto. No, I want a supercar for real, man.
And I've got everything else done in the day. However, that's really been more recently restricted to airplanes, but bringing on a Nintendo Switch on a flight is easily the fastest way for a flight to go by. And
Nintendo Switch, I think they released a new one recently.
Recommend video games for things such as long train rides, flights, etc. Things that you just have to be sitting in the same place for a long time and you don't really want to be productive or cannot be productive. But with that out of the way, let's get to the focus of this topic, which is the class element here. In the 80s and the 90s, video games were relatively expensive, particularly video game consoles. Like, it was a sign of dividing line in the middle class for those who could afford their own video game consoles and those who had to go to their friends' houses to play video games. I noticed that pretty clearly, and I didn't even get my first real console that worked until shortly after I turned 7, which was a Super Nintendo at the time. And I ended up getting a Nintendo 64 and a GameCube as Christmas gifts when I was older in my childhood.
Yeah, I remember the N64 and the GameCube, man. I don't remember what they say, Super Nintendo. I don't remember that.
Whereas I had a sibling who got an Xbox 360 and a PlayStation 2. And not everybody was able to have those, but most middle to upper middle class people by the early 2000s were able to have a home console, often a portable like a Game Boy or Sony PSP.
I didn't get a portable until I was a teenager, man. I was poorer than, I mean, it wasn't even that poor. My parents didn't want to buy it for me. I had to buy my own portable,
And PC games as well. It went from a more niche,
Yeah, PC was cheap. That's the reason why, if you had a good enough PC, you could run games. I mean, back then you didn't need a souped-up PC to run games.
Upper middle class nerd hobby in the late 80s to mainstream by the end of the 2000s. And with the mainstreaming of games,
it should never have gone mainstream.
Also became a lot more affordable. Like in the 1990s, you had to spend about $64 on buying a Nintendo 64 game, which
Booking.com has all kinds of stays. Because what's right for some
in about today's money for that time would be probably closer to $120 to $130 today. Whereas until recently, you saw games as low as major consoles as $50 to $60.
Yeah, and those games, you know, it's what, like 10 or 12 hours to play through the whole thing. That's it. It's not like nowadays, man, where you got the online mode and the playthroughs are a lot longer. You got some game 100 hours, 200 hours just to get a standard playthrough.
The next generation price hikes are coming, but it's still become a lot more affordable, and it's gone down in nominal terms and adjusted for inflation that much lower. And that's not even counting mobile games.
Gaming can be free, you know. Gaming can be 100% free, except for the hardware. You can game for free. All you need is the hardware, and you can pretty much game. And that's the thing. That's why gaming is so cheap, it's so accessible, and that's why people waste their life. They sit down and play games. Yeah, because you ain't got nothing better to do. You're just scraping by. You're a broke ass loser. And it's just so cheap and easy and accessible. You buy the hardware, and that's it, man.
Mobile games you could play for free simply by just watching ads, and you just buy loot boxes or skins gaming or other bonus features to the game. And so gaming, as a result, has become the cheapest amount of entertainment per dollar. You could argue movies are cheap too, but a movie is about maybe a third of the price of a game if you're buying it, but it also has well over a fraction of the content. Like a movie's 1 to 3 hours long. Like most video games are anywhere from 10 to 100 hours to complete. So that cheapness of entertainment, it makes it a draw, particularly for the lower classes, particularly underemployed, lower class men.
Yeah.
And
I played gaming at my lowest point, you know. At my lowest point, I was a hardcore gamer. That's how it is. I mean, because you realize that it's a cheap, easy way. You know, I don't even find gaming entertaining. I find it to be just a thing to pass time. I mean, for me, it's a habit. You know, it's like smoking. People don't smoke because it's entertaining. They do it because they've got that habit of doing it.
A lot of research to really show that there is a negative correlation between income and video game usage. The debate really is which causes the other. I was a guest on another YouTuber's channel where I discussed this issue, and I got pillaged in the comments for appearing out of touch because I mentioned this correlation. But I don't think necessarily people playing games makes them poor. More, it's the other way around. If you don't have the money to spend on other hobbies, you are more likely to spend that time playing video games.
Yeah, exactly. And this upcoming life simulator, Grand Theft Auto 6, and that's what it is going to be, a life simulator. People are celebrating because why? Because you can play golf, because you can play tennis, because you can do this in the game, and you can go to the mall. And it's like, bro, are you serious right now? This GTA 6 is going to take over people's life. They're going to live their life through the game, you know, because they're broke. This life simulator, that's what they've been wanting to do, to make GTA into a life simulator. And I think they've got the hardware now they got the capacity to do it. To what extent it's going to be a life simulator, I don't know, but they can't afford to pick up golf in the real life. They can't afford to learn how to play tennis. They can't afford to go to the shopping mall and buy some nice stuff. So they just jump on GTA. They're going to charge about $100 for that game, maybe $120. I'm hearing that. But that's just a one-time expense, and you've got all that at your disposal. Of course, they're going to put microtransaction and all that nonsense in the game, but you can get the base game for a standard price, and you can do all that. It's way cheaper than living your life in the real world, and that's how they suck you in.
I've noticed, at least in my youth, the times when I had the least amount of disposable income was heavily correlated to the times that I played the most video games.
Absolutely.
And there's also a social element
100%.
to it. Video
100%.
games are a way to distract yourself from when times are tough and you're not happy with your life. This is the point where it gets dangerous, because gaming can substitute real life achievement with digital achievement. The relatively smooth and consistent learning curve of most video games is not reflection of how tasks work in real life. The learning curve in real life is often a lot bumpier and a lot steeper than it is in a video game, which are perfectly designed to basically provide the right level of challenge that you don't get bored, but not too much challenge that you give up. Unfortunately, tasks in the real world,
No,
whether it's education,
I think gaming.
or
I think gaming. You do give up. I gave up on them. So a lot of games because they're designed to frustrate you and they're designed to humiliate you. In particular, the Dark Souls style games, where it comes up on the screen, you died. You know, why is it? Why is this game humiliating me? But that's the thing, to make you want to keep going. It's like a drug. It wants you to keep going so that you don't see the "you died" message. But ultimately, it's all meaningless. Gaming it's not going to do anything for you. You're just living in a fantasy world fighting fantasy monsters. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that?
or starting a business or the corporate world or socializing or really any sort of thing that requires any sort of challenge doesn't have this optimally designed level curve that most games do. And so when people who are accustomed to the reward system and the incentive structure structured by video games enter the real world where the learning curve is not as consistent, they feel a real big sense of frustration and disappointment because they're like, hey, wait, I'm used to having this steady linear progress that you would see in a video game. Like I build up my EX for defeating enemies, and if I get enough of them, I level up, or the challenges of the game just get progressively harder. So it doesn't feel like you're stuck too much on one part of the game if it's designed correctly. This wasn't as true in older games when the system wasn't optimized, and the result you had either games that were way too easy or way too hard. But nowadays, game developers have gotten a lot better at this, and it's caused a lot of people who are used to the more steady and reinforcement patterns of video games to be heavily disillusioned with the real world. They're saying like, oh, if it's not as smooth as my experience playing a game, maybe the real world is too hard and I can't accomplish things. And I'm not saying it applies to everybody.
Well, that's what you have. Most of these doomers play video games. I mean, I see these doomers and they're always gamers. Majority of them are gamers. Gaming is the ultimate doomer hobby because it's easy to compare to the real world. It's a form of escapism. It gets you away from the real world and real life responsibilities. But ultimately, you want success in the real world. Otherwise, you wouldn't be making doomer content. So you're just fooling yourself. It's called self-sabotage. That's what it is. Gaming is a form of self-sabotage. I would have been in a better position had I never touched a game in my life. A way better position. I would be in a way better position. But you know, the past is the past. The best thing to do is just quit gaming and move on.
Enough of this mindset. And I experienced it myself when I first entered the adult world, when things weren't as smooth, and I get frustrated how long it would take to accomplish certain things or how much effort I had to put in, how the hard work was not always correlated with the same amount of success. And I realized part of that misalignment of expectations was kind of sewed in by my experience with gaming, where I expected things to be much more smooth. And so people who do like games have to realize that the world isn't like a video game in that sense. The learning curve is not going to be optimally designed in a way that you are satisfied. And so that's where the risk is. And also just
gaming never satisfied me, you know. It's false hope gaming. I mean, you go on there, you think, yeah, I'm gonna level up, yeah, I'm gonna beat this mission, yeah, I'm gonna do this. But ultimately when you get there, it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything.
Using it as general escapism is the same way that people do to watch sports or TV or other forms of entertainment. That is a risk too. And this also shows you why there is a correlation between those who are out of the workforce.
I think gaming is worse. I mean, I think gaming is worse because gaming is unlimited. You can just go. Nobody watches sports 16 hours a day. You know, maybe there might be some people, but nobody watches TV shows 16 hours a day. Again, maybe there might be some people, but gaming for, you know, at least 8 to 12 hours a day is the most common thing that you do for 8 to 12 hours a day outside of work.
Those who play more video games. The reason why the lower classes play more video games isn't because there's inherently something wrong with them. It's because they often are working less hours, and so therefore they have more time.
Perfect teeth are just healthy teeth, so take care of them with the UK's #1 kids oral care brand.
If you're drowning in HR admin work, listen up. As HR, my workday used to be an admin nightmare. I was juggling dozens of files and
to play games. And when you have lower amounts of income, you can't really do social things with your friends because
and I mean, you're also gaming because your life sucks. You know, your life is garbage, and I guess you want to kind of like find some success somewhere, right? So that's why you game.
You may not have a car if you're like a teenager, or just the cost of going out is too expensive, or you don't have the money to take out a date, or your economic fortunes are not really that strong enough to get the dates that you want. And so as a result, that time you would be using on more social outlets or other hobbies such as golf, tennis, traveling, bowling, etc.
You see that all that is in GTA 6. All that is in GTA 6. And that's how they're gonna get you. That's how they're gonna turn you into the ultimate Doomer machine. You know, GTA 6 is the ultimate Doomer life simulator. That's what it is. I mean, guys are gonna give up their entire life to a video game, and guys are proud of it. There's guys on the internet saying, "Yeah, GTA 6 gonna take over my life," and they're proud of it to admit it. And these are grown men. You know, these are grown men, bro. It's crazy. Like, as a grown man, you can do something about your situation, but you're choosing to play a video game instead. That's how I know most people don't deserve any respect.
Going to spend at home playing games. And so as a result, video games have gone from a middle to upper middle class hobby to more working class and lower class hobby. And there's the data really shows this. It's like the working classes and the lower middle classes play considerably amount more video games. That's kind of why I would argue that video games are the escape for low income men. It's not all bad for video games. In fact, on the net, I still think the invention of video games and their adoption into mainstream culture is a net positive for society.
No. I disagree with that, but let's see what he has to say.
The previous vices that gamers now have replaced with video games were much more harmful both to the individuals themselves and to society as a whole. With idle time being occupied with video games, that's less idle time towards criminal activity and other antisocial behaviors. So
I don't believe that, because boomers didn't play video games, and boomers were far more moral and upstanding than the Gen Zer and the millennial. I mean, some people may be dissuaded, but for the most part, gaming, it's not a positive to society at all. Yes, it may subdue certain people. That's what they're claiming, that gaming will subdue certain people who are going out there to commit atrocities. But the thing is that the standard that we hold? Are you going to hold that standard that gaming is good because it may perhaps subdue certain people? No, I think the thing is that I hold a higher standard for individuals, so that doesn't wash with me.
Net, I think video games are actually a step for human advancement, even if on the individual level they can possibly debilitate.
I don't think self-sabotage can ever be looked at as a good thing. Now, you know, people might say, well, casual gaming is not that bad, and you know, I think casual gaming is not what is popular right now, because you look at the games that people play: Fortnite, League of Legends, the most popular games out there, Call of Duty. They are not casual, you know, they're super uber hyper competitive titles. So you know, I don't think casual gaming, I think casual gaming has for the most part gone to the wayside. But anyway, let's check out these comments, right? Let's check out these comments before I leave. I think gaming is more mentally stimulating than doom scrolling on social media. You know, I think that's a fair point. You know, I think that's a fair point to say that, because doom scrolling on social media creates a lot of mental illness. You know, I don't think it will even subdue certain people. I think it may inspire certain people to go out and do certain things. So, you know, I don't know, man. I think doom scrolling on social media is one of the worst thing that you can do. I mean, all this political claptrap and all this nonsense that they're pushing at you constantly is not good for your mental health, man, at all. Telling you that you're a victim, telling you that you have to become a doomer. You know, young men who were raised in middle class families don't like to admit that despite being college educated, they're now lower working class. Yeah, I mean, people need to accept their reality, man. A lot of people running away from the reality, and it's not helping them. I'm all about accepting reality. I hate running away from reality. Funny how a video game is cheaper than a date at a decent restaurant. That's true. That's true as well. I mean, and a video game, you know, you're not just gonna eat it and be hungry in a few hours later. You're gonna put a lot of time into that. Men will rather go play video games than go on a date. I mean, it's easier. It's easier at the end of the day. You know, if you play this game, you can get away with a certain level of like, well, you can get some progress basically. You go on a date, you may get no progress. Let's see if there's any more interesting comments. I feel like society just expects adults' men's hobby to be watching sports and drinking beer. I don't know about that, man. I mean, I don't want to be productive. I work for a living. When I get off, I just want to be left alone. Okay, that's fine. But then don't complain about the financial situation, though. See, when you do that, you absolve yourself. You say, I can no longer complain about the financial situation, because you're choosing to say, okay, I'm happy with my salary. I'm happy with my work. So you got nothing to really complain about. If you're not happy, you can do more outside of work to make more money. But if you don't want to, that's fine. But then don't complain. That's my thing. I hate when people complain when they're not doing their utmost to fix their financial situation. What else? People bash video games, calling them stupid, a waste of time, all while binging 37 Netflix shows and doom scrolling TikTok. Yeah, all of them are bad. All of them are bad. Let's see. Yeah. I think the comments are pretty much of the same. Video games are pretty cheap if you're a consistent and frequent player. When you think about the cost of each session, yeah, very cheap. They're incredibly cheap. You know, I mean, it's free. Nobody's actually mentioned this, but you get a PC, you can pirate every game. It's actually free. All you need is the hardware. Gaming is way cheaper than travel, for example. Yeah, but it's not fulfilling, man. Gaming is not fulfilling at all. See, people want a game, they don't want to travel, because it's harder to get the money to travel. That's what I've been saying for the longest time, that people just want things easy. That's the thing. I've been saying that whatever is easy. That's why gaming is so popular, because you just pop the game in, you play, and you go to sleep. It doesn't require any real hard work to attain it. I mean, it's just easy. And that's why gaming is so popular, because it's easy. So yeah, shout out to Analyzing Finance with Nick. If you want more response videos, if you want to this guy, or you want more gaming content, put it in the comments section. It's on Real Man Here, the Truth of Matters. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you aren't already. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you're informed every time I upload a new video.